Welcome to Rubber Bellissimo at the Movies, where we explore all things cinema. It's an honor to welcome Foster Hirsch onto my show for the first time. He is a professor, film historian, and interviewer. Foster Hirsch is a graduate of Stanford University and received an MFA in film from Columbia University and an MFA and PhD from Columbia in English. He joined the Department of English at Brooklyn College in 1967 and moved over to the college's newly formed film department in 1973 and has been there ever since. He is the author of numerous books on both film and theater. I'll just name a few: The Dark Side of the Screen, Film Noir, A Method to Their Madness, The History of the Actor Studio, and Otto Preminger, The Man Who Would Be King. And today we're discussing his latest book, Is Hollywood and the Movies of the 50s, The Collapse of the Studio System, The Thrill of Cinerama, and the Invasion of the Ultimate Body Snatcher Television. Foster, welcome. Thanks so much for being
Thank you.
here.
Thank you for reaching out. Thank you. I appreciate it.
My pleasure. What a book. I mean, I absolutely loved it. It totally
It
absorbed me, and
good.
I discovered so many movies and so much about that time.
That
Because I've always had
that
a
was my intention. That
good
readers that I've been hearing from readers that I do mention titles they were not familiar with,
many,
but
yeah.
that sounded interesting or compelling or even necessary to see. And I feel if I've accomplished that for readers and moviegoers like you, I did my job. It's actually of all the work that I've done, the books that I've done, it's the one I'm proudest of. It took the longest, it was the most ambitious,
Oh, I bet, yeah.
but in the end, I can say it's the book I wanted to write. So I'm proud of it.
Yeah, well, you certainly should be. And you discuss so much in that decade, everything from actors, directors, the every single major all the major movie studios, 3D, um CinemaScope. There's, I mean, the blacklist, film noir. Was it overwhelming? Did it ever get to the point where, oh my God, this history is so runs so deep? I wondered if it was
But
overwhelming at times.
it wasn't overwhelming because I knew my subject. I grew up in the 50s and I saw a lot of the films first run that I write about in the book, and I have a good memory. I can remember films from the 50s sometimes better than the film I saw 2 weeks ago, current film, because it connects to me in a deeper level. But I felt the challenge of it, but I never got overwhelmed. I think a writer has to feel that you know your subject or why are you sitting there? You know
Mm,
what you have to say is important and you have a particular slant on it. So that keeps you going.
hmm.
So challenging and always uh, interesting, but I not overwhelmed. I never had a dramatic moment when I thought I can't do this. I can't finish this. It's too much for me. I thank goodness I didn't have that.
And now you say, because there's so many movies you talk about in the book, and you said you a number. I mean, I imagine the majority of them you saw. But were there any discoveries, any new films you had never seen before while researching the book?
In a way, yes. And films that that took part in the Red Menace atmosphere of the time. That uh, when I was growing up in school, we were very much indoctrinated into a fear of communism.
Hmm.
And we were told that communists were prepared to infiltrate our country and that you never knew who they might be. They could be your teacher, your parent. Uh, there was this widespread fear. And there's a group of contemporary films that addressed that fear of the communist other. I didn't see those movies in the
Hmm.
50s. I wasn't that. I was certainly aware of the widespread fear of communism, but I wasn't that aware of the films. So I did. Those were real discoveries, and if you can get over a political dislike or animus against the point of view of the films, some of them are very much worth your time. I'll just mention two. My Son John, which is notorious because my son John turns out, God forbid, to be a communist.
Right.
And it stars Helen Hayes, the First Lady of the American Theater. It's beautifully acted and directed by Leo McCarey, who was a hardcore anti-communist, and presents that point of view, which may be very distasteful to a lot of contemporary viewers.
Right.
But I think people owe it to themselves to see a film like that.
Hmm.
It much reflects a political reality of that time. The
Right.
other one called to your attention is The Red Menace.
Yeah. The Red Menace I've seen.
You've seen that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I've seen
It
it.
is what it is.
Yeah.
It is what
Yeah.
it is. But it does pack a punch. It
It's
packs
true.
a punch.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it was made with total conviction
Hmm.
by Robert Yates, who was the president and CEO of Republic Pictures. He's a sort of, he didn't want to think he was Poverty Row, but he was. It was made with total conviction and sincerity, which a lot of contemporary viewers might not be able to believe.
Right.
That's how people felt.
Right.
Here he put his money and his studio behind a political conviction that he had.
Hmm.
For what it is, and you can condemn the film's politics, for what it is, it's a very powerful contemporary form of I guess, propaganda, agitprop, we would call it.
Right.
I
Right.
mean, I wonder if it wasn't 1949, 1950s equivalent of a movie like One Battle After Another for today, which
Right.
addresses contemporary politics in a way that is uncomfortable now and may seem maybe even unimaginable 80 years from now. Who knows how
Hmm.
that will be perceived? But I would say these films are in that category of politically volatile and controversial and despised by the Hollywood of the moment, which is so leftward leaning.
Yes.
But look at the films.
Right.
Give them a fair viewing.
Hmm.
You would admit Red Menace has a certain power to it.
Oh, for yeah, certainly. Yeah. Like I mean, it's clearly propaganda, anti-communist propaganda, but
It is.
it's a fairly engaging film noir. It's got some really great moments for sure. But yeah, I mean, it's you could certainly see where their mind was at the time
Yeah,
and what they
there
were thinking. Yeah.
it's very direct in its
Yes.
point of view and its sympathies, but it's made with complete conviction and sincerity. They weren't
Yes.
fooling.
Right.
It's how they felt.
Hmm.
I think as historians and film goers, we owe it to them to look at those films. Another one in that category, which is really a good film. I Was a Communist for the FBI,
Oh,
which
right.
was produced by Warner Brothers. It was not a Poverty Row endeavor at all. And that too it captures the political reality of the time and is a
Hmm.
very well made film noir, if you want to call it that, or political thriller about a subject people might at the moment find distasteful, but all the more reason to look at it.
Hmm. And I like that. I really appreciate that you wrote this book for on a personal level because I've always had this connection to the 50s. I think it's because I'm also an actor and I was so inspired by the method actors like Dean and Brando and so many of those people that came out of the actors studio. So I have never understood why the 50s has had this reputation of being all about the suburbs and consumer culture, which I know that's a big reason why you wrote it to sort of fix the way people to get them to think differently about the way
I
people look at it. Was that the main motivation behind the
the
book?
main motivation, though I didn't realize it fully at the time, was I was writing a kind of memoir
Hmm.
about going to the movies since I've always been a passionate moviegoer with impassioned opinions about every movie I see.
Right.
I don't ever seem to be just neutral. I have a very definite opinion. So I was that way as a kid, and I'm that way as a senior citizen. So I wanted to write about my memories of going to the movies, and it was also about going to the theaters, which we can talk about, the movie
for
palace, the
for
movie going
sure.
experience in the 50s is no longer. possible virtually, unless you're in a city that has a still standing movie palace that shows movies. And that's very few cities in America.
Right.
But I wanted, just as you said, to correct the cliched notion that the 50s was Ozzie and Harriet and Father's Knows Best and nothing else.
Right.
That was
Right.
a part of the 50s, sure. The suburbs, the consumer culture, conformity, all the issues that you mentioned. Absolutely, that was a part of the 50s. Stereotypes often have their basis in truth.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
those stereotypes about the 50s are not untrue, but the period was much broader, deeper, more complex, more conflicted than that. It was the period of the blacklist and the Red
Yes.
Menace. There were, and we think we're in a polarized political in this country, not in Canada, but in our country here in America. We're in a terrific period of polarization.
Yeah.
The 50s was that way too.
Yeah.
It wasn't this period of unthinking conformity and everybody was like everybody else. Not at all. And I
Hmm.
wanted to correct the cliched notion and give the 50s back its complexity and vigor and depth. And it's also, I have to say, I feel possessive. It's my decade. And I
Right.
wanted to stand for my decade that has gotten a bad press. And now
Hmm.
I'm writing about a kind of companion volume, the 60s, and my attitude to the 60s is very different from the 50s, and it's going to be a harder book to write because
Mm.
I have a conflicted attitude about the 60s and activism and the failure of the activists, which is dealt with in uh, one battle after another.
Right.
Um, but it requires a different approach, and I think the 60s have been labeled with a certain superficial generalization. It wasn't all about protest and rebellion. It was a much more varied period as well, and it's
Hmm.
reflected in the variety of the movies. Great range of movies in the 50s and 60s,
Yeah.
both decades.
Yeah.
Great range. I think for me, those are the two most vital decades in American filmmaking.
Well, I've
It's one kind of film, but every kind of film from a variety of political points of
yeah.
view.
Yeah, it's true because I've said, I've always loved so many movies and actors from that decade. And you may have seen this. I once saw Quentin Tarantino talk about how the movies of the 50s were horrible and you couldn't say anything in the 50s. It's like now with cancel culture, it was like, and I've never understood why, a decade that brought us All About Eve, Sunset Boulevard, On the Waterfront, A Streetcar Named Desire, Suddenly Last Summer, A Place in the Sun. How we can say that this decade was not a good decade.
You just listed a few of the canonical and great films of the
Yes,
period. I could almost say after that list, I rest my case. Those are
exactly,
great. Those are great movies on
absolutely,
every
yeah,
level, visually, in terms of writing, directing, performance, thematically, and they
yes,
do
yeah,
deal with daring subjects that weren't
absolutely,
before.
yeah.
Suddenly, Summer is an extraordinary,
Oh
crazy
yeah,
film, fabulous movie.
yes,
It deals with subjects that you couldn't deal with, supposedly. They dealt with it.
right. Right. Yeah. I mean, there were a number of films that were certainly progressive. So I've do you have any opinion as to why people look back on the 50s in the stereotypical sense? As why is it only about the suburbs and consumer culture and things like that?
I think over time that each decade gets branded in a certain way,
Right.
and the decade is reduced to certain cliches and conventions. So the 60s is all about political protest and nothing else. That's only one part of the rich and varied reality of the 60s. And so the 50s got branded with Ozzie and Harriet and Father Knows Best.
Hmm.
That became the way of defining an era. It's easy, and there was some
Right.
truth to it. There's as the 50s, there was a truth to it. It was an age of the rising counterculture and rebellion.
Right.
But then by posterity, that became the truth of the decade, and it was held to just that one aspect.
Mm.
It was just held to the one thing, and no period is just about the one thing.
Right. Of course.
Always a movement and counter movement, and there are always pockets of resistance and rebellion
Hmm.
against convention. And somehow the 50s got branded as the blandest, most boring period. And so somebody like Tarantino can speak, I think, uh, wrongly, incorrectly, about the dullness of 50s movie making.
Mm,
I think that's, I think he's himself, whether he's aware of it or not, has been influenced by some of the great films of the 50s.
for sure.
The Killing,
Yeah.
Stanley Kubrick's film about the heist, surely had an impact on his own very good film about a heist, Reservoir
Yes.
Dogs,
Yeah,
for
absolutely.
instance. For instance,
Yes. Yeah, I completely agree. Things are always more complex than people think they are.
it,
um,
it becomes simplified. It's
exactly. Yeah.
kind of shorthand. The
Right.
50s is this, the 60s is this, and it
Hmm.
becomes just the one note, and it's always much more varied.
Hmm. I wanted to ask about the blacklist period because you there was one thing that you said was correct me if I'm wrong, but you talked about how some of the blame towards the fact that that HUAC began was because of communists and their beliefs. I just want could you talk a little bit about why that is?
Difficult point to confront, but Senator McCarthy, who was a wild card, an alcoholic, and went to extremes, was not on the face of it wrong in saying that there were communists in Hollywood. They weren't an overwhelming number. They never represented a threat to the status quo. The Communist Party in this country was never that big a threat. It was never that large.
Mm,
Purely factually, were there communists in Hollywood? Yes.
yeah,
Did they represent a threat to the status quo? Did they want to overthrow our country? There's no evidence of that whatsoever.
right, right,
Did they have the right to believe politically as they felt? Of course they did. Did they introduce sometimes subversive notes in some of their films? Yes, they did. That's fine. So there were communists in Hollywood. The Communist Party was not officially or legally um, uh, not allowed. It was not ever officially illegal at that point. McCarthy got carried away, and HUAC got carried away, and their methods became extreme. I say that the true villain in the blacklist period is not the ill-informed, in many ways, the people who believed in communism in the 30s and then rejected communism in the 40s and 50s. And that was the overwhelming majority of
right.
the former communists, because to be a communist during Depression in America was not the same thing as
Mm,
to be a communist in post-war America. Two
hmm.
different periods and two different kinds of communism. Most of them disavowed their earlier beliefs in communism. The problem became not so much people being willing to talk about their own political disillusionment, but the committee asking people to name names. That was the horrible thing.
Right.
And, and I did a lot of research on this, and I found the ugly truth. The committee knew all the names.
Yeah.
They asked the naming of names as a ritual of humiliating and degrading the former, and in very few cases, still present communists. It was a way of public humiliation.
Right.
It isn't that they got information they didn't already know, they knew.
Hmm.
That part of it, are you now or have you ever been? Okay, we can argue about if they had the right to ask that question. But then just say, tell us who was in the communist cells with you. That's an awful question to ask. I'm not sure the committee had the right to ask that question. But the worst is they knew the answer.
Mm,
It was a form of a public ritual of humiliation. And those who became friendly witnesses Bud Schulberg and Leah Kazan, the writer and director of, I think, the greatest film of the 50s, On the Waterfront, were never forgiven for becoming friendly witnesses. They were branded for the rest of their lives
Mm,
for what they did. They saved their careers at the expense of what the committee wanted, a public ritual of humiliation.
right.
Just think if I put myself into that position. Would I name names if that's what I had to do to save my career? And you could convince yourself, well, communism is a bad thing. There
Mm,
shouldn't be communists in America. Communism doesn't work. Look at Cuba, look at Russia, look at North Korea, look at all
right.
the countries that have been labeled communist countries. Tell me where it works.
Right.
So they said we're naming names because we think communism is truly a danger to the republic, and we want to expose people who continue to have these pro-communist feelings.
Hmm.
But it was not the committee's place to ask for those names. It placed people in an impossible position. And those
Right.
who would testify had to leave the country in order to continue their careers.
Right.
I was worried in writing that section of the book, and it's a very detailed
Yes.
treatment of the blacklist and the committee hearings. It's very detailed. And they say, well, what does this have to do with the movies of the 50s? Quite a lot, but
Yes. Yes.
it's very detailed. And I was worried that my own political beliefs wouldn't be accepted by, quotes, the radical left, because I'm not that. But I heard from some historians who wrote major books on the period, uh, complimenting me on my even-handedness
Mm.
in treating the politics of the time.
Oh, for sure.
I
Yeah.
really tried to be fair and even-handed. I was worried that I was going to get criticized for not being uh, as politically progressive as some contemporary progressives would have liked. But the progressives who wrote some of the books wrote to me and thought that I had done a fair job. That
Well, that's
meant a
good to
lot.
hear.
That
Yeah.
meant a lot to me. That was a difficult part of the book to write, and it was that there. I knew the movies, and I'd
Mm.
seen the movies, and I knew about the Actors Studio and CinemaScope. All that was familiar to me. But
Right.
the entire blacklist period and the congressional hearings and the committees that formed, all of that I had to learn.
Hmm.
I did not know that firsthand.
But the fact that you talk about Dalton Trumbo had said there were only victims of the blacklist, that was something you felt was not necessarily accurate. Could you just talk a little bit about why is there some blame on the fact that people were communists at that time in general, that you or
No,
that
no.
was
My feeling is that they had that if you supported communism in Russia, you were on the wrong side of history. Look what we learned about
oh
Stalin.
right, of course, yeah,
Look what we learned. How could you support that political system, which was exposed after the death of Stalin in 1953? Uh, but did you have the right to believe what you believed, even if history proved you wrong? Of course you did.
right,
Of course you had the right to your political beliefs, as you do it in the current very polarized moment. People, I think, have a right to believe what they believe, but then there are consequences to holding on to those beliefs, and unfortunately, there were severe consequences in the 50s.
mm,
The blacklist was a terrible thing. I don't support the blacklist. Those people should not have been relieved of their livelihoods because of
yeah,
their
no,
political convictions. And most of them had actually abjured those convictions and said, well, in the 30s, I believed this. I no longer believe it.
right,
I don't believe that anymore. But I don't accept that this committee has a right to ask me about my beliefs.
mm, mm. I wonder if Trumbo was getting at the fact that because Russia was their ally during World War II, and they didn't maybe know about the atrocities of Russia till later. I wonder if that's why maybe he thought, well, we were all victims because how could we didn't no one knew about Stalin until a little later.
Well, I think some of that has been disproved that people did know more than they were willing to admit,
Oh,
though
okay.
the 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 extreme truth about what Stalin did and the Russian interpretation of what communism is was known, but didn't wasn't fully revealed until after Stalin's death.
Right. Right.
And then I think it would be very hard for people to say, I made the right call in siding with the communists.
Hmm.
Most of them did not, but it became a matter of conscience. Did you want to reveal your political convictions to this committee? And did you want to name names? And those were two big questions of conscience and morality. And many felt if they could no longer work here, if they were blacklisted, they would take the risk of building their careers elsewhere. That was
Hmm.
an that was a very dark period. How
Yeah.
can you say the 50s were this bland period of conformity when there was so much political darkness and and,
Oh,
and
for sure.
tragedy?
Yeah.
Lives were destroyed by this. Careers
Yes.
were upended. It wasn't Father Knows Best and Here Come the Nelsons. It was much more complicated than
Mm.
that.
And I like that you share so many of your own opinions in the book. Um, is that do you organically write that way, or do you consciously make sure your opinions are in there, or does it just
I,
come out that way?
no, I'm very opinionated, and my opinions are always there,
Right.
and I always wrote that way. I
Okay.
don't write like a typical academic, and I've gotten
Mm.
into trouble for that because academic quotes objectivity is not my style. I have a personal voice. My
Right.
my first sentence is, "I remember where I sat." That's the opening sentence of the book. That tells you that the writer's opinion and the writer's personality is going to take a major part in this history. This is not in any way an objective, detached,
Right.
quotes, academic history. It's
Right.
very personal.
Hmm.
It's about me engaging with the period and the films of the period, and I offer my opinions. And
Yes,
and people, not everybody is going to agree with my opinions. Of course not. I don't expect or even want them to. It's more exciting to have a dialogue and a debate.
for sure.
That's my style. Is I
Hmm.
write in the first person. It's my own voice. It's not a bland academic voice, or nor is it the kind of academic writing that keeps people out, because academic writing can be very theoretical with lots of big fancy
Yeah.
sounding words that can be forbidding to the general reader. I'm hoping my book reaches the general reader who's interested in the culture and the movies of that period.
Hmm. I was a little surprised to hear that some of your students felt that Katherine Hepburn was performances were
Well,
didn't hold up because I love Katherine Hepburn.
I did get some feedback for that. I'm
Oh,
not a
okay.
Katherine Hepburn fan. She
Oh,
sort of
okay.
drives me crazy.
Oh,
Uh,
okay.
my
Interesting.
students, my unfailingly though, my students do not like her.
Wow. Because I've always really
Unfailing,
liked her. Yeah, I've always really liked, but I could
unfailing.
see why people maybe wouldn't. But
She has not, among all the Golden Age stars, she has the is the one who has dated the most poorly.
why do you think? Because I
Well, I
find her to be quite truthful in her performances. But did you find that she was more artificial or?
Yeah, very artificial.
Okay.
Her accent drives me crazy. Who talks like that? Um, she seems uh, to represent a patrician American culture that contemporary students don't respond to.
I see. I
By the
see.
same token, the students respond very well, and they feel her acting hasn't dated at all to Barbara Stanwyck.
Oh yeah.
She
Yeah.
seems modern and contemporary in a way that Hepburn doesn't.
Right. I see.
But she seems to me like an arrogant woman and a very assertive person. in your face.
Hmm.
And she, for me, she seems to be always asking for the adoration and adulation of the audience.
I
And
see.
she's asking so much. And my response is, I'm not going to give it to you.
I
I don't
see.
feel that way about you. I'm not a fan of hers, but I think she's great in two films. And you could only say this if you're not a Katherine Hepburn fan. She's fabulous as the evil mother in Suddenly Last Summer.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
Amazing.
just that's not Katherine Hepburn. She's playing that part,
Yeah.
not asking for our sympathy. She couldn't possibly get it in that role. And she doesn't ask for it. She
Yeah.
plays the role as Tennessee Williams wrote it, and she delivers it magnificently. And
Yes.
she's
Yes.
fabulous as the mother in Long Day's Journey into Night.
Yeah,
Again,
absolutely.
not
Yeah.
playing Katherine Hepburn, but
Yeah.
in Picking Up Baby, that film drives me wild. I can't bear it.
I've never liked that film either.
Not funny to me. She's
No.
grating, and her voice is it just the pitch and tone of her voice very irritating. That's personal. That's gotten me into some trouble. And I thought when I came to that part of the book, I'm going to offend some readers, but it's truthful to me. And I say, I give her credit for obviously she was enormously successful, but I do say she's hard to take. She's hard to take for me.
I see.
For me, she is hard to take. She's not a person I would gravitate toward in the real world.
Hmm. Do people because I a film that I discovered that I hadn't seen before was The Star with Betty Davis, and she's incredible in that movie. I mean, what a
Yes,
performance.
she is. She's incredible in lots of movies.
Yeah, so
Um,
many.
so
Is she someone, do your students respond positively to her?
mixed response to Betty
Interesting.
Davis. Mixed,
Okay.
mixed, and a mixed response to Audrey Hepburn.
Oh wow.
Not all the students are crazy about her.
Okay. Huh.
Mixed response, but Barbara Stanwyck gets universal raves, and the method actors
Yeah.
get wide approbation. Students still respond to James Dean.
Yes. Yeah, I'm not surprised to hear
And
that.
they, I just showed Rebel Without a Cause to a class, and I had Nicholas Ray's daughter, whom I know, attend a class, and I was wondering, how are the students going to respond to James Dean and the portrait of being a young person in 1955 America? And despite the differences in social notation, James Dean's character goes to a high school where there isn't a single person of color.
Yeah.
Of
Yeah.
course, there'd be differences in social notation,
Right.
but this, even in this class just a few weeks ago, students said they could identify with James Dean. They liked him. He was somebody they recognized, even though it was so many years ago. They responded to his emotional anxieties. He continued to seem real and relevant to students.
Yeah.
And I say to myself, when I show a James Dean film in a class and students say he's yesterday's news or he's dated or he has no contemporary relevance, maybe it's time for me to leave. But that hasn't happened yet.
Good.
I'm not leaving and it hasn't happened yet.
Good.
And students love Marlon Brando,
Right. Who
who I
wouldn't?
think,
Who wouldn't?
well, I had a very difficult student, the only student in nearly 60 years that I actively disliked. And she said, "Oh, he has dead eyes. Marlon Brando has dead
Wow.
eyes." Can you
Wow.
understand that point of view?
No, no. No, I can't. I don't see how
And
you
that was
could think.
after seeing Marlon Brando in On the Waterfront, the whole
Oh my God.
performance is in his eyes.
Yes, absolutely. Wow.
Mm.
Wow. Maybe they weren't paying attention.
She was an ornery student. She wanted to just disagree with the teacher.
I see. I see. There's always a bad apple every now and then.
That
Um,
that was the worst.
yes, yes. Some of the other films, some favorites that I hadn't seen before, that I hadn't heard of before. Two amazing film noirs, Cause for Alarm and The Steel Trap. Oh my, I watched them back to back actually because
Oh,
they're both so
oh,
short. So
you, you did watch them.
I love them. Yeah.
Aren't
Oh
they
my
great?
God. They're great. I hadn't even heard of them. And I love film noir, but these two I had not heard of. And
Cause for
God,
Alarm and The Steel Trap.
amazing.
I'm old enough. I saw The Steel Trap when it was released in 1952.
Wow.
I remember as a kid, I was 10, being absolutely mesmerized by this film.
It's an incredible film.
And then I didn't see it for what, 60 years, 70 years. And I knew I wanted to see it again for this book. I had to because it was one of my favorite childhood films. I was very nervous about seeing it, thinking, would it hold up?
Hmm.
Would I still like it all these years later? What a relief.
Yeah.
It's fabulous in
Ah,
52. It's fabulous in 2025.
absolutely.
All of your viewers out there see The Steel Trap,
Yes.
written and directed by terrific and far too little known writer-director Andrew Stone.
Right.
Stars Joseph Cotten and Teresa Wright, who
Hmm.
worked together in Hitchcock's Shadow of a Doubt. This is 10 years later.
Yes.
It's an extraordinary film. It's also an extraordinary social document about early 50s America.
Hmm. Yeah, I loved it. I thought Cotten gave an incredible performance as well. I thought he was amazing in it.
Extraordinary. And
Yeah.
it's just so beautifully structured. And it makes a real and important point
Hmm.
about of the 50s, but don't want to give it away because we
Right.
want people to see it. But Loretta Young in Cause for Alarm,
Oh
fab,
my God. Yeah.
her greatest performance.
Oh, she's amazing. I've always really liked her, and man, oh, that's probably the best thing I've seen her do as well.
Best thing I've ever seen her in. Just terrific.
Yeah.
Cause for Alarm. 1951, Loretta Young, her finest hour. Just
Oh,
terrific.
absolutely. Yeah, highly recommend both of those.
Now
Um,
that one I didn't see as a kid.
oh, is
That
that
one,
right?
no, that one I didn't see. That one I saw in the course of doing research for the book. So I guess you could say that was a discovery for me too.
Oh, well, there you go.
I had not known it from the 50s.
Have you, correct me if I'm wrong, maybe you mentioned the film and it went over my head, but a film from the 50s that I love is The Actress with Spencer Tracy. Have you seen
It's
that
it,
film?
it's a yes, it's a terrific film. I don't really mention it in the book. It's true. I don't mention everything.
No,
The
of
book is.
course, of course.
I had to make cuts. I had to make cuts, and I, my editor said it's very long. You really got to make some cuts, and I did cut a section, which I now regret.
Oh,
I
really?
Yeah, I cut the entire section about directors, and though
Oh,
I introduce discussion of directors here and there wherever I can, there's a lot that goes missing that is in that particular chapter that I wasn't able to incorporate elsewhere in the book.
I see.
So I did incorporate information about Alfred Hitchcock. You couldn't write a book about the 50s and ignore Hitchcock.
Right, of course.
Greatest streak of films in the 50s,
Yes.
at the top of his powers, culminating in the masterpiece of 1960, Psycho, and what a way to get the 60s started
Yes.
with that perfect film,
Yes.
Psycho. So I was able to get Hitchcock into my discussion,
Hmm.
but there were other directors whose work I didn't consider. And one of my reviews, which was a very good review, faulted me for, well, he doesn't talk enough about the directors. And I wrote to the reviewer and said, every director you mention that you say it's a mistake that's not in the book was in the chapter that I cut.
Ah,
I now regret it. But I would have then had to cut something else because my editor was
right.
saying length, length, length. You
Right.
don't
I
want
see.
to cost $60.
Right. Right. Speaking of Hitchcock, we're fortunate in Toronto here that we still have a decent amount of historical movie theaters that are just only single screen. So I saw
Really?
Dial M for Murder yesterday on 3D. It was incredible.
At a single screen movie house?
Yeah, yeah. We still have about I'm probably wrong in my number here, but off the top of my head, we still have about five or six that are like
Really?
100 years old, yeah, or more. Some of them are even older than that.
Oh, great, great for Toronto.
Yeah.
I was there within the last 6 or 7 years. I, I'm not remembering. I know that there are some, you still have some left, which
Yes,
is amazing.
it's incredible. Yeah.
Yeah,
So and they show, great old classics. And so when I saw that they were screening it in 3D, I jumped at it. So that was
was it well
amazing to see.
attended? Was it
It,
well
it it
attended?
was, yeah. They a lot of these theaters often there's one called the Review Cinema. It's always packed. They're incredible at getting people to come out. And yeah, there was quite a few people there. So I was
Great.
happy to see that.
Yeah, I think I know that theater. That's not downtown. That's in a suburb, sort of, isn't it?
It's yeah, it's in the East End in the area called the Beaches. So it's quite far out there in the East End, but I'd never been before. And it's called the Fox Theater, built in 1914.
Wow.
And yeah, you walk in and you feel like you're in the 50s. It's
Oh,
incredible.
great. I have to go to Toronto just to go to that theater.
Yeah, you'd love it. Yeah, I thought of you when I was there. I thought I'll have to mention it. But they still have some in New York, right? There are still some.
None.
Really? I thought there were some.
The only single screen house left in New York is the Paris Theater, which they're
Oh,
promoting as a movie palace. No, it was an art house built in 1947, a modern style, and it showed art films, foreign films, and unusual American films. It was never a major, well, it wasn't a major Hollywood first run house. It was a showcase for foreign cinema. And so that's the only single screen theater left in Manhattan. The only.
wow, wow.
Los
Okay,
Angeles still has a few single screen houses,
okay, that's good to know. Yeah, at least there's a few.
a few,
Right.
but they're rare. The greatest theater in America is the Tampa in Tampa, Florida, which
Oh,
is a 1926 or 27 full-scale movie palace, beautifully restored, beautifully maintained. It shows movies almost every night of the year. Congratulations to Tampa. And I do introduce a film there once a year in June when I go down.
oh, great.
I it is fabulous to see a movie in that glorious theater, the
Hmm.
Tampa Theater. It's one of the great movie houses of America, and amazingly is still open.
Okay, good to hear. Good to hear. I'll have to plan a trip to Tampa one day.
It's worth it. It's worth it just to go to that theater.
Well, again, the book is called Hollywood and the Movies of the 50s, The
Do we
Collapse
want
of
to
this.
show it? Do we
Yes,
want to
please.
hold
I
it
was
up?
gonna, well, yeah, go ahead. I was gonna put a screenshot, but you can show it up when I edit it. But yeah, there it is. Great cover. Movies of the
It's
50s.
going to be out in paperback
Oh,
next
great.
next year, and a year from now.
Okay, fantastic. And do you know roughly when the follow-up on the 60s is gonna be out?
I'm writing it now.
Okay,
Um,
still writing.
it,
Okay.
it won't take anywhere near as long as the 50s did because I already have the template that I worked out with my editor for this book, and I'll use that template that of organizing. And it was hard to get to. It took me a while to find the right structure for the book. So it won't take as long. I've seen the films. I'm continuing to see them and take notes, but it'll be a good 2, 3 years before
Okay.
public.
Okay, fantastic. And if people want to follow you, Foster, where's the best place for them to go online or on social media?
I do have a website. So fosterhirsch.inc,
Yeah, yeah.
INK. Yeah.
Perfect.
Is that where
Great.
you found? How did you get to
That's
me?
how I found you. Yeah, I
I,
Googled your name and so it's a very great website and there's a
yes, a terrific
really
website.
nice. Yeah.
My website designer and manager, uh, Ted from San Francisco, Ted Whipple is just terrific. He knows how to do it. It is a
It's
good
very
website.
good. Yeah. A lot of
Lots
great
of
videos
photos.
and
Yes.
videos, and yeah, it's really fantastic. Well, again, highly recommend the book. The 50s is a lot more than you think, because is my lead-in title for this
Oh,
video, I
good.
think.
Oh, good. That's just exactly the right title.
Yes,
It's a lot
yes,
more than you think.
yes. No, absolutely. Well, Foster, thank you again for your time. I really, really appreciate it, and I
Thank
hope you
you,
can.
Robert.
Thank you, and I hope you can come again sometime down the road and talk about your next book.
Absolutely. I'd be happy to do that. Thank you. Good interview. Good questions. Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you and everyone for watching. Thank you so much for watching.